What is the craziest thing you have ever seen your mother do? I've never heard my mother use any profanity in my entire life, not as a child, or an adult. We had a retirement party for her, and a lot of coworkers showed up. She was her usual pleasant self, and at the end of the night, she got up from the table, called her boss a ducking worthless piece of shit and left the restaurant. Your mom's a G. One night after kayaking with my parents, we got home really late, so we decided to leave the kayak strapped to the top of the Tahoe. In the middle of the night my dad creeps in my room and peeks out my window. I wake up and he hushes me. My mom comes in and goes, "Come on." They head downstairs and I hear my dad pick up the phone and start talking to the police. I suddenly hear the front door slam open and my mom scream, "Drop the ducking kayak." The woman is outside pointing a butcher knife at three thieves, who also have knives, cutting the kayak down. I then hear my dad say to the police, "Hold on a second," followed by "Sandy, what the duck?" The robbers ran off and my mom remains the baddest badass in the world. Ducking legend. We were driving down the road once when I was younger. My mom suddenly pulls into a random driveway and jumps out of the car and starts walking down the street the way me came. She bent down to pick something up. She comes back to the car with a coin in her hand and says, "I knew I saw a quarter on the sidewalk." My mom once got out of the car at a stoplight to walk up to the driver's side window of the truck in front of us so she could scream bloody murder at him until the light turned green for intentionally swerving to run over a box turtle along the side of the road. I'm with mom on this one. Me, too. My mom's pretty badass. One time, because I didn't tell my mom what was making me upset, she literally hulked out and ripped her shirt off. I still didn't tell her what was wrong, but there was now an additional problem of seeing the angriest half-naked woman in existence. Okay brother, you're gonna tell me what's wrong right this second or the momster is gonna take you down. There are tears in my eyes. My brother was misbehaving, so my mom wanted to hit him with the slipper. I was in the bathroom pooping, so when I came out I was surprised no one was home. I looked out the window and saw my brother running across an empty field and my mom chasing him with the slipper in hand. Funniest ducking sight I ever had. The slipper punishment weapon of choice? Footwear is quite popular in some demographics. The secret of La Chancla. I was having a fire in the backyard with a friend. Early in the night I saw a shadow of someone in a yard over, told my friend. He said, "Nah, I don't see anything." Yes. There's a man there. A couple hours later I see the same man, only this time from another neighbor's yard. Friend gets to take a look and scares the guy off. We decide to call it a night. Our dogs, who had been inside, bark when they hear the side gate as I let me friend out. Mom wakes up, asks what's happening. I tell her about the creeper. She grabs a flashlight, hands me the phone and says, "Call 911 if you hear anything wrong." Armed with just a flashlight, her wife beater and panties she was sleeping in, she runs outside to look for the creep. Turned out to be my ex-BF stalking me. Cops were called. But I will always remember her running out there with nothing but a flashlight and a mom's courage, and thinking she's ducking crazy. She used to be the kind of person who would yell at retail and fast food employees. One time she freaked the duck out at a Blockbuster employee because she accidentally gave me the wrong game. I always checked to make sure we got the right one before we got home, so it really wasn't a big deal. Later when she was telling my dad what happened, she lied and acted like she was the victim. Very uncool. I was only 10 and even I knew better than to act like that. Mother's Day 11 years ago, my very petite mother decided to take my brother and I to Ross, local clothing store in a strip mall. We are pulling in and I guess she stayed at the stop sign a half a second too long, so the guy behind us slays on his horn and starts flipping her off. She responds by driving at a turtle's pace to make sure he was even more irritated until we actually pulled off to park. Instead of moving along and just being angry, the man decided to follow us into the parking spot and pull up so fast to my mom's door he almost hit it when she got out and started screaming in her face. Instead of being afraid, she went full psycho mode, pushed him backward and kicked 4 perfectly sized 6-boot-sized dents into the side of his car while screaming some of the craziest shit I've ever heard. After he fumbles his phone out to call the police, we peel out and head home. I did not get to go to Ross. My mom puts all of the bowls of cat food in the oven in winter so they don't have to eat cold food. We have 9 cats. God, the smell. You haven't thought of the smell, you bitch. Oh, my mother. Love her to bits, but she definitely has shaped her own category of how to be a parent. First off, She works and has worked 60 to 70 hours a week my entire life. She loves her job, and that's why she's there so much. Wasn't really around the house, but when she was drinking Coke by the can and watching Forensic Files. Stopped using a babysitter for my younger brother and I when I turned 8. Set no house rules or curfews. Said, rules don't make men, mistakes do. Then sips her soda and watches her show LOL. According to a quick Google search, you could dual-wield RPG launchers. Nice. Probably sending back her food at Red Robin because it was served in a plastic basket. She said, I don't want to eat out of a basket like a prisoner. When they brought her food on a plate, she was incensed that it was the same food. She wanted them to make her a fresh burger because the first one was served in a basket. Could have also been the time she, successfully, somehow, returned a jar of mayonnaise we had eaten out of for a week because she found it cheaper somewhere else. When I was around 14, she went on a blind rampage calling us, myself and 2 brothers, ages 13 and 11, lying little shits, that no one would ever trust us and we'd get nowhere in life, that she hates living with us and she wishes she could pack up and leave like our father did. He left to escape her, and is still very much involved in our lives. Why? Someone ate the last biscuit in the packet and no one would own up to it. A monkey entered my house through the back door and went straight into the kitchen. It started breaking things and throwing stuff around. My mom tried to shoo it away but it wouldn't budge. So she took a stick to save herself in case it attacks and started shouting at it. The monkey started making these sounds trying to scare her. This went on for about 10 minutes. I guess the monkey got tired and it left, but I'll never forgot the sight of my mom, who is usually kinda calm, trying to duel with the monkey. You had me at a monkey entered my house through the back door. What a great opening. When I was like 12 years old, my family made a trip to Croatia and we wanted to cross through Serbia. After like 5 hours of driving with the car, I really had to take a shit out in the middle of nowhere. But because of possible landmines still around after the war, my mom told me to stay at the car, while she makes a safe path to a place I can take a shit. It took me 5 years to realize that she had put herself in the serious danger of getting killed by a landmine, just because I had to empty my bowels. Next Mother's Day you can make her a card with a landmine and a pile of poop saying, "You're the bomb, and you're the shit," and on the inside say, "Thanks for all the years of guidance, Mom." With a little picture of a kid squatting in the distance and 2 pairs of footprints leading out there. Not evil crazy, but stupid crazy. My mom can't drive for shit. She has driven down a flight of stairs because she thought it was the car park entrance. Reversed into a table that somebody was moving. Gotten wedged half off a retaining wall after driving forward instead of reversing. She has also scratched her eye twice. Once on an envelope and another time at the store on those metal things you hang stuff off. Edit, found photos of the first one. She decided to give knife throwing a try. She's blind. I made some drawings on some cards and sent them as invitations for my birthday to my family members. My granddad thought it was a fun idea, and made a drawing of his own which he sent to me, accepting the invitation and letting me know that he looked forward to it. This short-circuited my mother's brain for some reason. When I got home from school, she threw my little brother and myself in the car and drove us to my granddad's house, where she proceeded to scream at him, seemingly forever, about how despicable he was, how he played favorites, and how he was a terrible person for not having sent a card to my little brother for his birthday a month earlier. The fact that my brother hadn't sent out any invitations, and that he didn't care at all about me getting a reply for my effort, didn't matter to her at all. Things were never quite the same between my mother and my granddad after that day. I still don't know what kind of a mental breakdown caused it. It's one of those things we don't talk about. And I didn't send out invitations in the years which followed. Edit, since a few of you have asked, the granddad in question was my mother's father-in-law, not her own father. She tried to have sex, I'm sure that she already has, with my sister's boyfriend. Now this is what I came here for. She fell for a Nigerian, Jamaican, lottery scam. After she had my dad thrown in jail, she was blocking the bedroom door where $2,000 in cash was, and he pushed her aside to get the money before she sent it to the scammers. We had an impromptu intervention. The scammers would call the house every 5 minutes. She lost about $6,000 to them. She would beg them on the phone to bring the lottery money because we didn't believe her. It was very sad. That is so sad. I'm sorry. We were hiking the Grand Canyon and it was day 2, so we were hiking up and out. which is of course more challenging than walking downhill. My mom kept complaining about the heat and how tired she was, and along comes a park ranger leading a group of tourists on a burro ride to the bottom. She walks right in front of his horse, the rangers ride horses, the tourists burros/donkeys, and collapses on the ground, crying and wailing. The ranger asks if she needs medical help and she literally holds the back of her hand against her forehead like a silent film actress and sobs that she can't carry this backpack any farther, etc. The ranger says he can take her backpack and drop it off next to the ranger station at the top of the canyon, and she thanks him about 12 times, crying non-stop. All this time the tourists are staring at this spectacle, and that was enough for me. I was so embarrassed. I told my sister I would meet them all at the top and I took off on my own. Kicking a lethal snake a meter in the air. We were walking along the beach when a dugite slithered over her foot. She couldn't see what it was because she was carrying 2 large bags, but instinctively kicked it to the side as if it was a tree branch or something and kept walking. Meanwhile everyone behind her was trying to process what the duck just happened. Snake native to Western Australia. Oh, who would have thought? Grab a kitchen knife and go crazy stabbing this mattress to force my dad to throw it out. Good times. Not. When I was in 2nd grade, 1994, I went to Catholic school. I learned about other religions through TV and asked my mom if those other people who follow other religions would go to hell. She told me, honey, it doesn't matter what you believe in as long as you are kind to others. I was so stoked. I went to school and told my friends what she had said and they all got super excited. Well, the news got around the school and I was called into Principal Sister Gina's office. She spanked me for spreading blasphemy. My mom was called to pick me up because I was acting hysterical afterwards. I'm sitting outside the nun's office watching my mom and her talk when suddenly my mom punched a nun in the face. Now my mom is a guidance counselor in a large high school in Genesee, Michigan. She's the nicest person I've ever met. I will never forget that moment. She came out yelling, "Go ahead and call the police," and we went and had Slurpees. A week later I started public school and my mom started her job as a teacher. When I was growing up there was a spring when a bear was coming around our yard and knocking over the bird feeder and eating the seed. He must have ruined like 3 feeders before my mother stopped buying new ones and started taping/gluing it back together. So one morning I'm sitting at the table with my mom having breakfast when she looks out at the feeder, then stands up and rips the slider door open, storms out onto the deck and starts screaming, "Hey, get off my feeder." At this point I peek around the corner and sure enough there is the bear coming down off its back 2 legs looking very confused as to why it's getting yelled at. The bear walks off into the woods and she comes back inside as if nothing happened. Me and my dad just look at each other and start laughing. My mother, one of the most tame and level-headed people I know, just flipped her shit on a bear and scared it off. Mom went up like 15 points in the badass department that day. She sat down to play 2 hours of Tomb Raider on the PS1. No real reason besides just curiosity of what it was, and never went back to it. I got a lot of respect then, that a parent would take that much of an interest in their kids' hobbies. It doesn't take a lot of effort or time to get an idea, even if only small, of what younger generations are into. Not really that crazy, but still not something I would ever expect. Get married. 7 times. When I was 17 and my brother was 15, she got into an argument with him outside. I watched through the kitchen window as she chased him with a hammer. He made it to the house and locked the screen door. She proceeded to hammer the door. She's also tried to stab me. One of my earliest memories is her drugging me so I'd sleep. She must have overdosed me because I couldn't breathe. My parents were arguing over calling an ambulance and she was worried they'd lose their jobs. She was a nurse and dad was a cop. I'm in my early 40s and my mother has caused me so much anguish and destroyed our family. I was non-contact with my parents for about 3 years but recently let them back in. It is a disaster. Much harder to cut them off a second time now they've met their grandchildren. I accidentally fell asleep with a candle still lit when I was a teenager. My mom saw, and instead of walking over and blowing it out, she completely panicked. She let out a big yell, grabbed the candle and swung it around while trying to blow it out. She spilled wax everywhere. I realized that's unsafe, but nothing else was on fire that might cause a panic. To this day I can figure out why she was so freaked out by a candle that she lost her mind and spilled wax all over the place rather than just blowing it out. A few years ago my mom was going through the menopause and wasn't really feeling great about herself. My stepdad and I were trying to cheer her up and give her compliments, but it didn't seem to do much to help. One Saturday evening I was having dinner with them. There was a lot of wine involved, and we were discussing how my mom wasn't feeling very confident or beautiful anymore. I told her she needed to embrace who she is and that she should be proud of her body and her looks. She is truly the most beautiful woman I've ever known. And the next thing we know, she has stepped outside into the back garden, taken her t-shirt and bra off and is streaking around the garden in a moment of madness. We live in an urban area, and our garden is overlooked by quite a few houses. She got her confidence back from that little outburst though, and the neighbors probably got quite a surprise. You do you, Mom. Lived in an older house with glass doorknobs that can come loose, fall out, etc. when I was in high school. My sister was away at college and my dad and brother were at a basketball game out of town. Mother dearest drank an entire bottle of Old Crow that afternoon and decided I was an ungrateful fat bitch while I was upstairs doing my homework in my room and took the doorknob out, so I was locked in. I was locked in from 6 p.m. to 7 a.m., no dinner, no breakfast, no explanation other than the drunk screams through the door of being a fat ungrateful bitch. Should note at this time I was maybe 100 pounds and a ballet dancer. Thanks for listening to another episode of Reddit X. Subscribe and activate the notification bell so you won't miss any stories. Feel free to share your own stories below in the comments. Have a good day.